Welcome to Cutting the Chains podcast. Today's show will be on self care and the importance of practicing it and doing it and just being engulfed in it throughout your daily lives. And today I have an amazing guest, Ashley Theobalds, who is a licensed professional counselor, motivational speaker, as well as an author on The Intentional Me. And we will get into that as the show goes on. And yes, because I looked at it on Amazon and I think I'm going to have to order myself a copy. So,
Yeah.
to start out, Ashley, welcome to the show. So,
Hello.
I want you to give me a little background as to what got you working in the field, what you do, and your biggest why.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me on here. What got me into this field? It was a process, right? And I think we all go through those. But I started off, oddly enough, as an architecture major in college. um,
Wow.
yes. Um, but while I was doing that, I was an RA um, for my school for 2 years. Um, and I really liked helping the residents a little bit more than my classes. So I kind of took that, and after a year of working in the architectural field, I went into education. And I did that in Boston for 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I came to Houston, and I've been here ever since. I was working as a teacher, um, but I found that students wanted to talk to me more about what was going on in their everyday life, um, as opposed to actually learning the material in the classes. And I couldn't really fault them for that because I did the same thing with my college classes. um,
Wow.
yeah. And so after doing that for a couple of years, I decided to get into school counseling. And I did that for about 2.5 years, 3 years. hmm And then I went and I finished my grad degree, and I went and I became an LPC, and I have done that ever since, and I love it.
Wow. What an amazing journey that brought you to the field of therapy. And we do have a similar background. And I agree, when you're teaching, you hear all stories and everyone trauma dumps on you. And so you start realizing the importance of therapy and counseling and healing and dealing with all of the stuff that goes on in our lives. So, just to start out, for those who are not aware of the language self care in itself, can you give me your basic definition of what self care is? Because there may be a lot of confusion as to what it is and who it applies to.
There is, and I kind of want to take this opportunity to read a little excerpt from my book on self-care.
Feel free.
Is that okay?
Yes.
So,
Oh, I love that.
okay. So self-care, according to my book, is taking time to do things you enjoy, which can reduce stress, help manage emotions, and improve physical health. So, in my book, I have a few different things that you can do for self care. But I think self care is really taking time out for yourself, especially as therapists, as school counselors. We know you help everyone else, right? But you still have to give back to you. And one of the big things that I learned is that you can't fill up someone else's bucket if yours is empty, right?
Oh, yes.
And so that's where self care comes in. You have to fill up your bucket. And now, how you fill up your bucket can be different than how I fill up my bucket. If you like to go for walks in the park, that's fine. I do not. So I fill up, right? I fill up my bucket more with like art. It's that architecture major. Um,
Oh, I love art
I
as
love
well.
art as well.
yeah, so you find different things that you do to fill up your bucket to help with the self care.
Great.
Hopefully that
Thank
answers
you.
your
Thank you.
question.
I think I
I
hear a
think
little.
you're a little
Let me see.
too.
The echo. You hear echo? I'm just
I'm
trying to
just
make sure. All right. So jumping back in, what are some things that you think is important for individuals to know when embarking on trying to make sure they include self-care into their daily regimen or their weekly regimen?
Mhm. So I tell all my clients, I say it's the rule of three, kind of. So you do one small thing for yourself every day. It could be like 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes. So it could be you saying some affirmations in the morning. It could be you reading a little bit of a book, right? Or it could be you taking that little walk in nature, or just sitting down and having your morning cup of coffee, right? That's what I like to do in the afternoon. And then you do one medium sized thing for yourself once a week. And that could be, if you're a lovely lady like me, getting your nails done. It could be doing like a little spa routine. It could be some exercise class. If you like to do a guided, like any class at the gym. Um, or it could be like you just going to an art museum for a little bit. And then one large thing every month, right? So the large thing doesn't necessarily have to be really expensive, but it could be something as small as a staycation, right? Where you stay at home and you just do nothing.
Right.
um, But yeah, so the principle of three, the one small thing every day, one medium sized thing once a week, and the one large thing once a month, to kind of fill your bucket up and to keep it full. Mhm.
I love that. I love that. I think I'm going to incorporate that as well.
You
So
should.
I know when you gave the definition, you said that it impacts you on a holistic level, like physically and emotionally. So why is this important even to a stay-at-home mom, not necessarily only those working in education or therapists or helping fields, but it seems like self-care is something that everyone should be practicing.
It definitely is. There is burnout in every field, right? Um, from doctor to lawyer to nurse to stay-at-home mom. Even someone that is starting their own business, well, that's a big one. Uh, there's burnout everywhere. And if you don't take care of yourself, then there's no way that you can take care of things for anyone else, right? And so that is why self care is so important. Because if you don't take care of yourself, you won't be able to, like, self care is also, it deals with eating right and exercising and making sure your mental health is okay, right? Or is good, rather. And so you doing simple things like meditation or the walk outside, um, that can help just kind of reset yourself, and help you, like, fill in one of those once a week or once a day or once a month, those things that you need to fill in. Mhm.
Good. And speaking to what you said about burnout, a lot of people are not familiar with what that really is, although they may be experiencing that. And for me, the best visual I can give is Overboard, Goldie Hawn. The character was Annie. I don't know if you ever saw that movie. It's one of my favorite. but she was in a new role as a mother. She's cleaning, she's trying to get the house in order. She's doing all these tasks around the house in the movie, and then she gets to a place where she's like in a catatonic state and she can't move. And she's in a little trance, which is, for me, that's indicative of burnout. Like she did a little bit too much physically and exerted herself. Although it's hilarious when you see this clip, when you watch the movie, can you give me some indicators that one is experiencing burnout if they're not familiar with that concept? How do you know, like, hey, that my body's giving me a sign that I might need to take it easy?
Yeah, so there are definitely different signs that you will experience if you are experiencing burnout. So I try and break it down. So in my book, there are four different buckets, right? So you have a social bucket. If you are experiencing burnout in your social life, maybe you are going out and doing too many activities. Like some people invite you to different things, and instead of choosing which ones to go to, you're like, oh, yeah, I'll be there. I'll be there. I'll be there. I'll be there. And you just go, 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 go. And you don't realize that you have to take time for yourself, right? So socially, that's a burnout. Another one is your financial independence. If everyone is reaching their hands out for what you have and you're giving, 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 that's a wonderful thing, except for when you have given everything and you can't pay your bills. That's a burnout financially. And you're just going to be there. You're going to lose your car, lose your house, right? You don't have anything left. You're giving your clothes to the homeless and now you're walking around half naked. That's not what you want. Another
Okay.
thing, oh, well, oh, there's two more buckets. Your health, right? And so that's a big one. And the health is your physical health, your mental health, and your like spiritual health. Okay. So all of those things fill up the health bucket. And so physically, if you are kind of doing too much, right? If you are working out every day, 3 hours a day, or you are eating too little, right? That could be a burnout. If you are just trying to tackle every little thing and you don't give yourself time to rest, that's a burnout. And your body is going to say to you, like, I need to sit. I need to be still for a little while. I just need to relax.
Okay. So it sounds like you're saying balance is key.
Yes. Oh, thank you for bringing that up. Balance is definitely key, right? We need to know, yes, we can give money. That's lovely. Yes, we can give of our things. We can give of our time. We can give of our listening ear, but you can't give to the detriment of yourself. So you do need to balance that out. And obviously, I can't tell you what your balance is. It's going to be a little different than mine. Um, but you have to figure out where your balance is. Like, okay, I can go to 3 activities this week instead of the 10 I was invited to. Balance. Or I want to donate, these things, but I still have some for myself. I'm not walking around naked in these streets, right? Uh, I'm going to go to, I'm going to do workouts every day or Monday, Wednesday, Friday for a half an hour, 45 minutes, even an hour. But that's 3 days a week, not 7 days a week for 3 hours at a time, right? So we do need the balance.
Thank you for that. And what do you say to the person? I myself would hear a lot of friends and clients in the past say this, that will communicate, I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time in my day. I can't work out. I'm jam packed with, parental duties and my work, my obligations to their significant others, and all of the above. But what do you say to the person who feels there is simply not enough time to add in that moment, whether it's 15 minutes, 20 minutes, a walk, or what have you? What do you say to that person?
I say you don't have enough time because you don't want to make time, right? You have to realize that your mental health comes first. And you have to kind of schedule it out. I know that we all have all these things in our daily lives that we have to do, but you have to put yourself on the schedule too. Okay. So if you're taking care of your kids, you're taking care of your spouse, you're taking care of the dog, where do you fit on that schedule? You need to make sure you fit in there either first thing in the morning, lunch, or last thing before you go to bed, somewhere, right? And for each person, it's different in your schedule, but you have to fit yourself in because no one else is going to fit you in if you don't fit yourself in.
I agree. I agree with that. And let's focus a little bit on your book, The Intentional Me.
Mm,
And just that word itself.
I'm sorry, it's the intentional you.
Oh, it's the intentional you, which thank you for correcting me. So let's focus on what that means, intentional. Like for somebody who's not familiar with that term, what does that mean? Intentional.
So for me, the word intentional is you choosing to do something. You are choosing to do this specific thing over other options, right? You are specifically doing X over A, B, or C. And you're using X, whatever X is, to help you progress, right? The whole idea is that you are moving forward, even though we have all this chaos around us. So I'm sorry, this is going to be crazy. But I don't know if you can see. There's like a blue diagonal line. Nope, going the wrong way. Diagonal line. Still can't make it. Anyway, there is a blue diagonal line in the midst of the black craziness in the background or on the cover. The blue line is supposed to represent you. You are making this direct, intentional, you know, journey with all the black crazy in the background. These are things that you have no control over, but you have control over your intentionality and what you do with your life. So, being intentional to me is just that, deciding
Yes,
what you
I
want to
do.
do, and doing it. hmm
And your book, where can listeners find this book, and how can they purchase if they said, "Hey, today's the day that I want to be intentional and apply something that I have learned"? Like, where can they find your workbook?
So, the book and its book workbook, it is available on Amazon. It is called The Intentional You. So if you type that in on Amazon, you will find it. Um, it is, and I'll just kind of show you. I can't figure out my right from my left. I'm sorry. But oh gosh, nope. Okay. So there are questions in it that you fill out. And then the first part is more descriptive, if you will. But the second half of it is more of the workbook to challenge yourself. And so I believe it's very helpful. Um, yeah. So Amazon.
Okay, awesome. And who would you say is your target audience for your
Mm.
workbook?
So
Like some people say, I have it all figured out.
that one is a little tricky, right? So my target audience is anyone that wants to kind of better themselves, not better, but figure out where their intentions lie, and how to become the best version of themselves, right? So that could be a high school senior, it could be college students, it could be an adult, it could be, someone who is starting a business, someone who's been in a business for 10, 15 years, someone with a full family, spouse and kids. It could be anyone really. The idea is just it's anyone who wants to know how to work on themselves and be intentional with that process.
Okay, thank you. And that just says that, like I said initially, everyone can, benefit from self care.
Yeah.
So, before we part ways, I would love to ask you, what are some major gems you can leave my listeners with that they can take away from this podcast and hopefully utilize in their daily struggles as we go through life? It can be tough. That what can someone take away from hearing you discuss self-care and the importance of being intentional?
I would say, if nothing else, understand that you have to put yourself first, or put yourself in the equation to, deal with everything else and everyone else. Remember the 111 principle? Something small that you can do every day, something medium once a week, and something large once a month. Remember that you matter, right? And do something for you, because at the end of the day, you're only left with yourself.
I like that. I do. And I also like that self-care doesn't have to cost. It really
No,
does.
oh no, it really doesn't. And like, I know this is gonna sound odd, but one of the my favorite things for self care is to sit on my back porch and listen to the birds. And I know that's weird, but I love birds because they are just so happy.
I do too. I actually use that as a sound that I pull up all the time with a little bit of light rain. So, and that might irritate another person, but for
Right.
me, I love to hear it. And like you said, there is no cookie cutter, answer for anyone. We all
Yeah.
are different. And we're all wired differently.
Yeah. And in the book, The Intentional You, I have outlined a few, well, more than a few, quite a few different activities that you can do for self care. You can do a gratitude exercise, which is really beneficial. Saying, that things that you're thankful for every day. Just three things. You can add more if you want to, but three things that you're grateful for. You could do the rose thorn bud exercise, and that one is particularly interesting. And I will keep that one for the book. So please
Okay.
grab the
I'm,
book and you will read it. Yes.
I'm a little interested. Just me
Mhm.
using that and applying it to my tool bucket, but also in my own life. I love to find a workbook that I can incorporate in working with others that's been helpful for me. So now you got me really wanting to get that, get my
Yeah.
own copy.
Definitely get it. I know over the summer some eighth graders, they use the book, in a summer camp, and it was really beneficial to them. So it's kind of anyone that's in a transition period, I would say. Definitely beneficial.
Okay.
Hmm.
Well, that's helpful to know. And especially this is the season and the time, school's back in gear, college. grade level schools, staff, parents, everybody is in a frenzy. So I believe me having you as a guest right now is super important and is going to be impactful as well for my listeners because everybody is just crunched for time and it is tough to juggle all the different hats that many people wear.
Oh, yes. And I know that not everyone has time for therapy, right? And so my book, chew,
Oh, bless
chew,
you.
excuse me, chew, um,
That's a
I'm
cute sneeze.
thank you. My book is it can serve as a placeholder for therapy, right? Because not everyone can go to a therapist or not everyone has time. And so this could be your therapy in a book.
Great. And I know that you practice therapy in the state of Texas, but I do know some people have licenses in different varying states. How can any of my followers access you if they needed a therapist? I'm not sure what type of practice you are doing, but can you share that information if at all you are accessible for someone to seek you out?
Yeah, unfortunately, right now I am not accessible because I'm working with a new population. I am working at nursing homes.
Oh,
Um,
wow. Okay.
so, because everyone needs some
Yeah.
therapy, some self care, um, and right now, unless you have Medicare, um, I can't see you.
Okay. Well, that's awesome to know you're doing work with our elderly population. Sometimes that population tends to get overlooked. So I think that is just amazing that you're doing that.
Well, thank you. Yeah. Yes.
And before we end, is there anything else you would like to share out on the topic of self care, showing up as your best version of yourself, and just being intentional?
If I leave you all with anything, it's just that uh, remember that you are what is left at the end, and that means you have to take care of yourself. You need to be intentional with what you do, and you need to love yourself. Self care equals love.
I love it. I do. And with that, I would like to thank those of you who have tuned in for this episode on self care. Thank you, Ashley, for joining me and shedding some insight on this topic. It is super important to the masses. And I hope all of you can take away with you some gems that Ashley imparted about self care and just showing up as your best version of self. Thank you all for joining us. And thank you again, Ashley, for
Yeah,
being here.
definitely. Thank you for having me.
And I'd love to have you again in the future because you have a wide array of experience. But again, and that is our show today, you guys. And I hope you have learned something that you can take away that'll change your life for the better. Have a good one.